Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is for the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. A little late getting this out, but here we go. This is part 2, my snaps analysis, weeks 1 to 4. Check out part 1. This is part 2. And in part 2, we will use the data in a way to tell a team's current story. Okay. And we're going to look at running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. We're going to look at the player snaps as far as usages. Okay. How's the team using that position relative to other positions? We're going to grade that position across the league and highlight when it's low or when it's high. And we're going to mark that as well. And so I've got each figure here shows 4 teams. And so you can go through and just in a thumbnail look at the story that's going on each team is telling. So I'll just kind of cherry pick through here. This is start out with Arizona. Arizona doesn't use the running backs, believe it or not, as well as they should. 25% is low. They use the wide receivers, on the other hand, high. So, and the tight ends about average. So, I know we got Connor, but other than Connor, they're not really using a lot of other running backs here. So the depth that you want to invest may not be for weekly play. It may be for handcuff purposes only. Arizona wide receivers, all about that in Arizona. So depth may play a role. High level usage, 41%. That's, pretty good. Atlanta does not use the running back, wide receivers. It's just like, why even have them on your team? It's very sad. And last week was extra sad across the board. If you look at week 4, you can see everything dropped. So they had a real tough week. Baltimore, running backs, tight ends declined week 4. Wide receivers, okay, about average. Buffalo underutilizes its RBs. Over the last 4 weeks, they've done pretty good with tight ends, but last week was sad. And wide receivers was sad and underutilized. Tight ends have been highly used, 40%. So 22, 40, 38, 40%. Tight ends is high over 4 weeks. So you can look week by week, or you can look over the 4 weeks. So you get a different level of view there. So what does that tell me? That tells me that there may be some depth to the tight ends. I know Kincaid is not being used as much as he should, and Knox is getting usage. So, in an extreme emergency, either one has use, but nobody's going to dominate. At least that's what this data is trying to tell us. And they're also saying that there's been a decline recently in what Buffalo's doing here. And running backs, not very high to begin with, kind of low. So if you look over here, 22% low. So underutilized. That's what it tells me. So I'm not really strong on depth of collecting running backs here for Buffalo. Let's see what's next. Carolina. I do like the running back depth there. So Hubbard, Sanders, they're both worthy. Tight ends, forget about it. Usage for wide receivers, there's some depth there, so you might invest a little bit in the deep. Chicago, wide receivers do get a little play. Tight ends are not. Even though Cole Kmet is getting some touchdowns, it's not used like it could be used. Cincinnati, the same way with the tight ends. Wide receivers is the story there. Cleveland's about average across the board. Dallas, Tony Pollard's underutilized. The tight ends are overutilized. Wide receivers about the same. Denver, the running backs are sad in usage. Tight ends, wide receivers, it's okay. Last week was really low. Detroit is average across everything, which might be a surprise. Green Bay, still using those running backs, not the tight ends. And the snaps for wide receivers are lower than they should be. We had one great game, week 3 for Green Bay. So what do you get week 5? This can spot inconsistencies, right? There's not consistency here. You can see it's bouncing everywhere. That's sad. We see more, for instance, tight ends are just sad all the way across. Last couple weeks, the running backs have seen an uptick in usage. So you can follow the trends and invest accordingly. Houston, it's all about the passing. The last 3 of the 4 weeks, that's dominant. So they're a pass-first team. Indianapolis, running backs, well thought of. So if Taylor does come back, he steps right in to a solid role there. Tight ends are underutilized. Wide receivers, nicely used here in player snaps here. Jacksonville's not using ETN, but Evan Ingram is highly used, so that's good if you drafted Evan Ingram. Wide receivers, okay. Kansas City, all about Kelsey, isn't it? Wide receivers, sad. So the depth on the wide receivers, who do you pick? It's just they don't have a dominant alpha. So it's very obvious. That's what this data is telling you there. Chargers not using their tight ends. Wide receivers is the show. Rams, all about the running backs. Hopefully with Kupp, the usage of the wide receivers goes up. I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe the running backs take a little hit. Tight ends have been sad. Last 2 weeks, extra sad. Raiders, all about the tight end for some reason, as far as snaps. Okay. Running backs, wide receivers, Miami, look at the tight end usage. It's just not scoring a lot. Wide receivers, kind of below what the league is, believe it or not. They're just really damn efficient. They're not using a lot. And the running backs, usage-wise, is not as high as it could be. So that's interesting. They're kind of trying to balance it out there. Minnesota, they're passing all day long. All day. New England, kind of average. There are some upticks in the tight ends with Henry, Grosecki. Trouble is they're cutting each other's value. Wide receivers, hard to find that alpha there. New Orleans, the usage on the running backs has been low. I know Kamara came back, so that's good. Everybody else is about average. Giants, all about running backs and tight ends. They're trying, but not very successful. And the wide receivers like Kansas City, there's no alpha that I can see. Maybe Rondale Moore is coming on. I don't know. If you look at the individual team snaps, there's some evidence for that. Let's see what's next. Jets, all about the passing these days. Nothing else really happening. Running backs, Philly, it's all about the passing as well. Poor Goddard, it's underutilized. 30% team distribution of snaps. Sad. Pittsburgh, passing. Seattle, tight ends, underutilizing their great stable of wide receivers. That's sad. San Francisco, it's all about the running backs as far as team usage. Sadness on the wide receivers and tight ends with Kittle. That's sad. Tampa Bay, running backs getting a lot of play usage-wise. Tight ends okay, but running wide receivers, Mike Evans, other than him, Godwin's been low. Not good. Tennessee, King Henry right here. And everything else is Washington, across the board there. If you look overall, you can see the highs, I put in green, of the teams. San Francisco, Rams, Carolina, Indianapolis, and here's some more that are high usage in the league, and then low usage. So you won't invest in the depth here, less so down here in the depth right now. It's the way the teams are using it. Tight ends, here's the highs and the lows, folks. Philly is so strange. They're doing a lot of snaps for the tight end, Goddard, but not compared to everything else, underutilizing. So that's sad if you drafted Goddard, which I did. Sad. Wide receivers, here's the tops. Look at Cincinnati. Highest use in the league. Jets, highest use. Minnesota, Philly, Houston, Chargers, Chicago. Isn't that interesting? Pittsburgh, Chicago put on the show Thursday. Well, folks, there it is. Seattle, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Rams, Miami, believe it or not. Giants, San Francisco, Kansas City, low. So you can use this information to stack depth, daily fantasy information there. I think there's a lot of goodies here. Your analysis, and I just shortcut it to you, for lineups, okay, especially deep flex. You know, kind of use this as a starting point and then move from there. Next time, part 3, I talk about individual teams and we can look at player levels. The static images are on scienceoffantasyfootball.com. Check it out. I hope you get a thumbnail of what I'm seeing. Okay. I don't know if this data, since we're just position only, is, it's just a framework for you to begin the deeper thinking. A lot of these metrics, that's how you use it. Not to finish the story, but continue your investigations. Okay, come back. We're having fun trying to do part 3 here. Woo woo.